Search of Malice. The FIRs against journalists for incorrect accounts are abuse of law with intent to intimidate. So, some FIRs have been filed against the journalists for incorrect accounts based on incorrect information or incorrect data or false data are abuse of law. And doing so, filing FIRs against the journalists for incorrect information is an abuse of law with intent to intimidate. And and the police, actually the FIRs were filed by the police. So the author is saying that the police have done that with intention to intimidate or with intention to frighten the journalists. The registration of cases against some senior journalists and Congress MP Shashi Tharoor for their misleading social media posts on Republic Day violence during the farmers' protest in Delhi by the UP and the MP police is an instance of fishing for malice when there is none. So the registration of cases here the filing of FIRs against the senior journalists like Congress MP Shashi Tharoor um, because of their misleading social media posts based on the violence created by the protesters in the farmers rally in Delhi on Republic Day. So the police have done that. They have filed the FIRs against the journalists because they have produced some misleading information on the social media. And by doing so, and by filing the FIRs against the journalists, the police are just um, the police are just searching for them. The police are just searching for some evil data when there is no evil data. Here they said malice. Malice means something dirty, evil, or bad, but there is no such thing, and the police have not understood that. The Gautam Buddha Nagar police have clearly gone overboard in their response to the tweets that reflected an early factually incorrect piece of information that a farmer who had died during the tractor rally in Delhi had fallen into a police bullet. So Gautam Buddha police, the area of the police of that region, Gautam Buddha Nagar. So the police of the Gautam Buddha Nagar, they have crossed their limits, and they have filed the FIRs against the journalists, and by doing so, they have abused the law. Um, Piece of information that so all of this problem started when the senior journalists they have posted some information on their social media regarding the violence of the protest, and they have said that a death of the farmer in the protest or in the rally was due to a police bullet, and that was not actually correct, but that's okay. That's the job of the journalist. He will do what he has to do, and he will be updating with the latest information. But the police they got very angry when they knew about the post or the information about the misleading information. So that's the main problem, and that's the reason why the police have filed the FIRs against some senior journalists, including Shashi Tharoor, the MP of Congress. Later reports said that he had died when a tractor overturned during the protest. So later, the actual reason was not the police bullet, but it was a tractor which overturned on the farmer. The police have invoked the offences of sedition, conspiracy, promotion of enmity between different sections, and breach of harmony between groups. So the police they have gone long beyond the limits, and they have raised enmity between themselves and the journalists, and they have said that the journalists in some group they're running a conspiracy which India does not know. So the police are imagining things in that way, and by doing so they have eliminated harmony from themselves and the journalists, and they have created enmity instead of harmony. Besides, they have sought to portray it as a threat to national security and an attempt to instigate violence. So not only that, they not only raised violence, they not only raised the enmity between themselves and the journalists. Now they are saying that this is a huge threat to the national security of India. the the journalists may have been running some conspiracy, and that is a huge threat to national security of India. So the police are imagining and they're thinking things in this way. A similar FIR has been filed on the basis of a complainant in Bhopal, but it invokes only sections relating to the promotion of enmity and ill will. So, a similar case also happened in Bhopal, where the police have filed an FIR, where the police have filed an FIR, but but actually that case is a bit different because in that case the police had done what they had to do. They have done the right thing, but here everything is totally different. It is apparent and also strange that the complainants and the police have sought to link the violence on January 26th with the circulation of a piece of misleading information for a short period. So, as I said, this misleading information that a farmer had died due to a police bullet. So, this misleading information was on the posts of the respective journalists only for a short amount of time. But after that they have removed that, and they published the correct news that the farmer actually died to a tractor which overturned on him. And even though the misleading information lasted on the social media for a very short amount of time, the police they still are raging enmity between the journalists and themselves, saying that they are a huge threat to the national security of India and they want to create violence. So all of this is very apparent and it is strange. So it is very clear that the police are trying to they are trying to accuse the media of being a threat to the national security, and that is really odd. For one thing, the clashes between some of the protesters and the police had already started when the lone death among the protesters occurred, and second, the position was clarified in a short while. So, for one thing, the first thing is that um, there were huge problems between the protesters and the police during the rally. But the first time the suspicion, but this, but first time the suspicion of fear or enmity between the police and the protesters occurred when one of the farmers in the protest had died lonely. So no one knows the reason why, and the farmers in the rally or in the protest they think that police were the reason for his death. So from that moment, enmity grew between the police and the farmers in the or the members of the protest on the Republic Day. As the Editors Guild of India has pointed out, it was natural for journalists to report emerging details on a day of protest and action at time when several reports were coming from eyewitnesses on the ground and the police. It is a matter of concern that there is an attempt to portray these earlier versions as intentionally malicious. So the author is saying that not only this author, as the Editors Guild of India, the Editors Group of India, it has declared or it has announced to everyone that there was no mistake of the journalists in this situation. They have done nothing wrong. They have just done their job. So what is the job of the journalist? They keep updating us with the latest news, and they did the same here. The information which they got, which is actually misleading, that a farmer died to a police bullet. So that information they got from the eyewitnesses and the police, even including the police on the ground. So they actually got this information from the police and other people, and now the police are accusing the media and the journalists of being a threat to the national security because of the misleading information which the journalists received from the police. So as I said, the journalists will be updating us with the latest news, and so they did, and so they did their job. Not only they gave the misleading information, they took it away and then they replaced it with the correct information that the farmer died to a tractor which overturned on him. Even then, the police were not satisfied. It is a matter of concern that there is an attempt. So. Um, it's a matter of concern that an attempt to portray these early versions as intentionally malicious. There is little surprise in the attempt by the police to invoke section 124A of the IPC at the slightest pretext. So, by filing the FIRs against the journalists, the police they have abused the law. Um, Specifically, they have abused the Section 124A of the IPC. It is part of now familiar practice of weaving a narrative of an imagined threat to national security when some sections of the police get an opportunity to slap criminal cases against journalists and dissenters seen as critical of the current establishment. So, so the thing which has been going on right now, the police have accused the media or the journalists of being a national threat to the of being a threat to the national security, and this is not something the police have just started. Um, this has been going on for some time now. Um, whoever disagrees with the police, especially the journalists, the police are trying to slap them with criminal cases, which they're trying to slap them with criminal cases. The sentence means that the police are trying to just accuse them with criminals with criminal cases and saying them as criminals. So by doing so, whoever disagrees with the police, they just basically trying to frighten, intimidate, or threaten them. The violence that marred the protest that day provided them with the opportune backdrop necessary to file a sedition case. So all of this looks like an opportunity which the police were waiting for to intimidate the journalists. An exasperating part of this narrative is that all those who had put out similar information through their social media handles have been deemed to be acting in concert, even participating in the same conspiracy. Hence, the inclusion of the Section 120B, the conspiracy provision in the Penal Code. So, hence the inclusion of Section 120B, the conspiracy provision in the Penal Code. So, they have also abused the law, as I said, they have also abused the Section 120B and not only 124A. There is little doubt that the registration of cases in two states different from the place where the farmers' protest death occurred indicates an attempt to build a narrative that media misreporting led to some of the violence that day. So there is very so in the situation there is something which is very interesting. So the FIRs which were filed by the police, as I said, those are filed initially. As I said, the police who had filed the FIRs were actually from UP and MP, but the actual death it took place in Delhi. So the police in Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh, they have filed FIR cases for the death of a farmer who died in the protest in Delhi. So this is really strange because the police in those areas have filed FIRs against death against the journalists. So it says us that the police all over India, uh, uh, the police in general, that they're trying to create a narrative or a story that the journalists of India or the media of India is trying to give us misleading information to rage violence in between the Indian government. Not only to rage violence, but it is also a big threat to the national security. So the police are trying to create this type of story about the media. It also shows a tendency not to miss an opportunity to harass and intimidate journalists. So, as I said, it looks like the police are waiting for this opportunity to harass and intimidate and frighten or intimidate the journalists. Thank you.